Hello and welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church of Plano online. My name is Jeanette Bailey, and I am one of the worship associates here at the church. At Community UU, we work for justice, nourish spirits, and transform lives. Whether you are a church member, a new or longtime visitor, or you just found this video online, may you find connection with us and food for your mind and spirit. Our service today is entitled Enough. How can we simplify our lives in an age of overconsumption and overstimulation that impacts our planet, our opportunities, and our well-being? We can do better. Pastor Kaya Hartwood will lead us on an exploration of how we can draw the line and experience our lives differently. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies all that unifies and brings peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which will make of all sects, classes, nations, and races one global community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal denomination. We hold that we do not have to believe alike in order to love alike. In this and every UU community, there is a diversity of personal creeds, but there is one covenant for our church. And this covenant is about the ways we promise to be in relationship with each other and the wider community. We recommit ourselves to these promises each time we recite this church's covenant, and each time we gather, we recite it again. Please join with me now. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great command, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. A benefit of the spiritual community is sharing our happiness and our burdens. Please use the chat feature in your Zoom window to share with us what is on your heart today.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. Pastor Kaya Hartwood holds a Master's of Divinity from the Star King School for the Ministry and is a UU ministerial candidate. Kaya has had a long career as a musician, speaker, and creator of good in the world. She serves at the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, as well as Unitarian Universalist Church of Victoria, Texas. Please get comfortable and enjoy the music and the message for today.
Good morning. This morning I'm talking about enough. And I want to start by talking about an African concept called Ubuntu. In the Xhosa culture, it means I am because we are. An anthropologist proposed a game to the kids in the African tribe, and he put a basket full of fruit near a tree and told the kids that whoever got there first would win the sweet fruits. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hands and ran together, then sat together enjoying their treats. When he asked them why they had run like that, as one could have had all the fruits for himself, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? I love this concept, but we all know that it's not a Western concept at all. That's just not how it works in Western civilization. We are taught to compete, to believe that there isn't enough for everyone, and how well we do determines how much God likes us or how successful we are, and it's based on our own actions and not on the generosity of others. We talk about the countries where people don't have a Western lifestyle as developing countries. What are we hoping they develop into? How much is enough? Do you have enough? Merriam-Webster defines enough as in or to a degree or quantity that satisfies or that is sufficient or necessary for satisfaction? What things and needs do you feel are enough for you? Is this only a practical question, or is there some deep inner dilemma going on? How does acquiring stuff make us happy, or are we almost permanently dissatisfied? I can't get no satisfaction. Always craving more. More money, bigger houses, more tech, better cars, more vacations, more stuff. Are we comfortable with only having all the stuff? And what are our responsibilities to our neighbors, to other countries, or to the planet herself? What happens if only a few people have all the resources? Well, it's getting to be more and more that way. I know this sermon is asking uncomfortable questions, but our resources are limited. Kenneth Boulding in 1973 said, "Anyone who believes exponential growth can go on forever in a finite world is either a madman or an economist." What can the earth support? According to World Counts, the way the consumer society is working is not sustainable. We are currently overusing Earth's natural resources with more than 70% used. If everyone on Earth lived like the average American, we would need 5.2 planets to support us. The number is 3 if everyone lived like the average Japanese, and about 3.3 if we're talking about the Europeans. And the number of people in the consumer class is growing. In a period of just 13 years, the number of people in the consumer class will increase by over 2 billion people. The size of the global middle class will increase from 3.5 billion in 2017 to 5.6 billion in 2030. Most new consumers will come from Asia, with China and India being the main drivers of the growth. I know we used to see movies from China and there would be all these bicycles in the street, and now they're cars. The same thing is happening in India. Our ways of living and our overconsumption is an emergency. We currently have 1.7 billion members of the consumer class. People are incurring debt and working long hours to pay for the high consumption lifestyle, consequently spending less time with family, friends, and community organizations. The 5.6 billion consumers in the world by 2030 will result in a massive increase in the demand for energy, food, electronics, clothing, transportation, housing, furniture, and so on. What it means in practical terms: no more rainforests, no water, no fish in the ocean. We have to act. We have to change our ways. We have to lower our individual footprints, adopt a more minimalist or voluntary simplicity approach. The good news in these changes can lead to more fulfilling lifestyles and general happiness. Gary Gardner of WorldWatch writes, "The goal is to focus not so much on sacrifice, but on how to provide a higher quality of life using the lowest amount of raw materials." He said, "We need to change the way we produce goods and the way we consume them." You could take on the personal challenge of what Dave Bruno calls reducing your individual possessions to 100 things. But see how much happiness you could have with the things that you own, with the fewest number of them as possible. You could try living within your means. You could declutter your life, get rid of anything that does not bring you joy or isn't essential to your well-being. We could find the beauty in less, appreciate little things, and practice gratitude. Maybe this holiday you don't buy people things, you give them experiences. You take them out to dinner. You go on a trip or go to the museum, or you do something that's going to enrich their lives but not add to their list of stuff. When you do make a purchase, buy for quality and long use, or the people who made them were properly paid and they're sewn well and they're going to stay in use for years and years. not necessarily the highest fashion, but more of the classic fashion. Consider how the food is raised and its effect on the planet. In fact, we might need to change our economy approaches, how we evaluate things, not just on how much they cost, but what their effects are on the planet and on our general state of well-being. As the Taoists say, focus on self-knowledge and good deeds. The Greek philosopher Diogenes said, the simple life is necessary. Many famous persons throughout history argued and practiced voluntary simplicity, including Jesus, Gandhi, St. Francis, Henry David Thoreau, Rabindranath Tagore, Leo Tolstoy, Confucius, Buddha, and Muhammad. You'll be in good company if you just try to just lower your intensity and your consumerism. There are things about capitalism that can be a little frightening. We kind of stay in this Cold War mentality that communism is bad, socialism is bad, and capitalism is good. When actually, I believe that we might want to look at the periods that were most successful in our country's history. If you look at FDR and the New Deal, that's a lot of socialism involved there, especially in things that benefit everyone. The more educated people are, that benefits everyone. If people are happy in their jobs and they're doing what they love, they're going to be better at it. That's just a fact. These are things we could consider that aren't necessarily based on the market. Voluntary simplicity is a concept also called compassionate living. It's a lifestyle choice that minimizes the needless consumption of material goods and the pursuit of wealth for its own sake. Many benefits can be realized when one chooses voluntary simplicity, including feeling more control of your life, reducing financial stress, minimizing the desire for material goods, scaling down and slowing down, creating more free time for family and hobbies, reducing stress caused by a career, reducing your carbon footprint, and creating mental space to focus on fulfillment. What are you going to do with your one precious life, as Mary Oliver says? Are you doing it? Now's the time to think about it because the planet is counting on us. You could see old products not as waste, but as a resource that can be reused and recycled. Consumer culture, which is the consumption of buying and selling of goods driven by social norms, is responsible for 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the world. Cars and other forms of transportation account for nearly 30% of world energy use and 95% of global oil consumption. Opt for produce that isn't wrapped in plastic. Go to the farmer's market. Buy local. Buy beautiful things in season that aren't wrapped up in plastic and styrofoam. Bring your own bag to carry them in. If possible, if it's a product you love, contact the company and ask for non-plastic wrapping. Your consumer voice matters. These are things we can do no matter how much income we have or how busy we are. The sun could power the world easily. The sun could basically power the earth for a year in about 80 minutes. The entire earth in a year in about 80 minutes. Solar power, the technology and the batteries are being developed rapidly. And there are plenty of places in the world where harvesting solar power makes sense and would not hurt the environment. But before I tell you that, I really just want to encourage you to not beat yourself up. This is not it's not your fault that you were born in this society and you were taught the things you were taught. And the world is set up the way it was, and it's taken thousands of years to set it up this way. But changing it is something we do have agency over, and we can do things to make things better. And we can just let go of our despair and believe that the little things we do matter, because they do. Even small things. Elections are won by 3 votes sometimes, or lost by 3 votes. And one of those votes could have been yours, where you just didn't feel like your voice mattered and you didn't vote. Participate in the democratic process. Like I said, vote. Vote. Educate yourself about the vote and vote for clean energy. Vote for climate activists. Vote for comprehensive climate policies. We can't draw down the CO2 and keep the planet from burning up if we don't get busy. Divest. If you're rich enough and well off enough and you have money in the stock market, you might want to divest of any institutions that fund fossil fuels. This is a pretty easy thing to do. You can go to greenpages.org and look for financial products and services that are clean and green. You can improve your insulation. One that's going to save you money. It's cost effective. And it also helps benefit the climate crisis. You can use LED lighting. It uses 90% less energy than incandescent bulbs. And switching your home will save you money and save you cooling bills. They also last longer than other bulbs. You can rethink your transportation. If you live in town and you can walk places, or you can take the bus, ride on the trains if the trains are coming. So if you're in a town where they have these options, check it out. Try to pile up your errands and do them all in one run and use less energy that way. These are small things you can do. Commercial trucks alone account for 6% of the world's emissions. If they were all electric, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? We can recycle. If you recycle aluminum products, use 95% less energy than creating new ones. About 50% of recycled materials come from households. If that number were to increase to 65%, at-home recycling could prevent 2.8 gigatons of carbon emissions. Make sure you're recycling correctly. That also makes a big difference. And you can just buy less. Just make it a challenge. Give yourself an allowance of things you can buy. Try to use a shopping list when you go shopping. Try to figure out if you could borrow it from your neighbors rather than buying your own, especially with tools. These are things that's a way to get to know your neighbors better and build more community. I know this was a lot, but I just wanted to sit with it and think I could do better and just pick one or two things, small things. You don't have to do everything all at once. It doesn't have to be an austere, Puritan event. You can do it gently and still make a big difference and feel better, get a little more exercise, have a little more light in your life, and help other people, which makes you feel good, and your happiness quotient will go up. By doing as Leo Bauta suggests, by identifying the essential and eliminating the rest. By identifying the essential and eliminating the rest, I believe we can work less, love more, want less, spend less, and end up happier in the process. Do what you can. Every effort matters. Thank you.
The things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the people of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All I am. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Our wish at Community UU Church is to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and generosity in all things. This beloved community is a living thing. We bring much to it by our presence, our love, our caring, our generosity, and our hard work. We may be fed by it in equal or even larger measure. We encourage you to give as you are able so that the good works of our church may continue. And we also remind you that the Share the Plate beneficiary for the month of November 2021 is Plano Community Homes. This organization serves the elderly and disabled populations of our area with safe housing at multiple locations. So how can you make your donation? You can donate by sending a check to the church building address, which you can find on the front page of our website. You can also donate by visiting our website and clicking on the blue Donate Now button on the front page. On behalf of our community, your generosity is deeply appreciated. As our worship draws to a close, it is time for us to extinguish chalice. Please recite these words together with me now. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be.
Remember the way of the wind, and breathe and blow. Remember the way of the fire, sparkle and glitter and glow. Remember the way of the water, and ebb and flow. Remember the way of of the earth and grow. Go in peace.